Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visite suprememastertv.com/schedule.
I nostri programmi sono offerti in molte lingue. Consultate suprememastertv.com/schedule.
The reason what happens here matters to the rest of the world so much is that this region is currently heating up at twice the global average. 2 degrees warmer already. Within the next few decades, that could be 5 or 6 degrees.
Extreme weather events. Droughts around the world. Part 2 of 3. Continue watching to find out more.
Grüß Gott means hello in German, the official language of Liechtenstein. I'm Andreas. The people of Liechtenstein thank you for caring for the environment and for being kind. Welcome to part 2 of our 3-part series on extreme weather events, droughts around the world. On today's show, we'll explore the severe drought conditions that are affecting Africa and Europe. Home to the Sahara, the world's largest hot desert, North Africa is one of the driest regions on Earth, where it's common to have no rainfall for more than a year in some places. However, for many years climate change has increased the lack of rain and abnormally hot weather across East Africa, Southern Africa, and the Horn of Africa as well, damaging crops, increasing food prices, and driving up the aid requirements of tens of millions of already vulnerable people across the region. Water levels on the Zambezi River are lower than they have been for decades. Fish stocks are in danger of collapsing, and the usually thundering Victoria Falls has slowed to a trickle. The river's depletion has endangered Kariba Dam, which usually supplies about half of Zambia's and Zimbabwe's electricity. Lake Kariba is currently at 10 to 20% of its capacity, the lowest point it has reached in more than 2 decades. Water levels are barely above the amount needed to keep the local hydroelectric plants running. And more disasters are occurring. A record 45 million southern Africans are food insecure as the region enters the peak of its lean season. From October 2019 to March 2020, an estimated 430,000 people faced severe food insecurity and required urgent humanitarian aid. More than 4.34 million residents of rural Zimbabwe are experiencing a food crisis, and worse, from February to June 2020. This is equivalent to 45% of the country's rural population, and includes over 1.04 million people facing emergency food insecurity, with the Humbange, Kariba and Binga districts being the most vulnerable.
Southern Africa's worst drought in 35 years, interrupted by an equally disastrous 100-year flood here in Malawi 2 harvests ago, has prompted the UN's World Food Program to declare its highest emergency alert in Malawi and neighboring Mozambique and Zimbabwe, plus Madagascar.
It's always a difficult period for the family because if there is no food, then the family cannot survive.
For Malawi farmer Obleser, this drought means having to ration the same fodder of corn husks he feeds his animals to now feed his family. Over 40 million people in the region are without reliable access to food. And it's expected to get worse as the region moves further into the lean season between harvests.
Close to half of the population is really facing extreme difficulty in the form of malnutrition and hunger.
Severe droughts across Sri Lanka and Somalia have also affected food production, and the dry weather is expected to get worse. As of May 2020, the Disaster Management Center of the Sri Lankan government reported more than 312,000 drought-affected people from 14 districts in 8 provinces. Similarly, Through mid-2020, up to 1.3 million Somalians are expected to face food consumption gaps or depletion of assets indicative of crisis or worse outcomes. Besides shortages of food, water scarcity is also threatening the lives of both animals and humans in South Africa. Over 1,000 animals recently died on a farm north of Cape Town, South Africa, as a result of the severe drought affecting the Kalahari Desert.
Not much left over here, and this is from 5 years of drought.
They are handing out 10 litres of water per person. It's a big help, of course, in this neighbourhood, but it's not a long-term solution. You're in charge, essentially, of providing water to all these people. How do you feel about what's going on?
It's terribly frustrating. It's something that you know you're responsible for it, but there's nothing you can do. People phone in the middle of the night, they swear at you, they curse you. It's not a pleasant situation, but we've got to try and do what we can.
The reason what happens here matters to the rest of the world so much is that this region is currently heating up at twice the global average. 2 degrees warmer already. Within the next few decades, that could be 5 or 6 degrees. So what you have here, essentially, is a glimpse into the future, and it's not looking promising.
I was very skeptical about it, almost saying it will never happen to us, but it's happened, and it's really happened. And what we're seeing here now is part of climate change. And people are just going to have to, even in the countries where they get lots of water, they've got to start realizing the situation has changed drastically.
Climate change is creating a drought crisis that's affecting energy, food supplies, and tens of millions of people every year around the world. According to the World Wildlife Fund for Nature report, Drought Risk, the global thirst for water in the era of climate change, the impact of extreme droughts is growing worldwide, including in Europe, putting increasing pressure on energy supplies, food production, wetlands, and cities. From 1950 to 2014, droughts affected 2.2 billion people. In Europe, the damage caused by droughts between 1950 and 2014 is estimated to be 621 million euros per event. To date, 11% of the European population and 17% of the area comprising the EU have been affected by water scarcity. Europe is seeing soaring temperatures. The current drought, especially in the northern and central parts of the continent, has had a devastating impact on crops. According to the World Meteorological Organization, heat waves, record temperatures, and disastrous precipitation levels in the summer have caused the drought. Rainfall has been extremely low. The European Drought Observatory's precipitation map shows extreme dryness across large swathes of northern Europe, stretching from Belgium and the Netherlands to Finland and Estonia.
Water is essential for us, for plants, and for our crops. For just about everything on Earth. Without water, everything changes.
During the last decades, we have more frequent and more severe droughts in Central Eastern Europe, and we are incurring very serious economic and social losses.
There have been other serious drought events in Europe over the last 10 years. In 2007, the eastern part of the region was severely hit. And again, in 2012, large areas of cropland were damaged. Many farms experienced crippling economic losses. Every year, it becomes clearer that the countries of Central and Eastern Europe are being affected by droughts that are more frequent and that last longer.
Dr. Andreas Marx of the Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research, Central Germany office in Leipzig, says that the past 3 years have seen unusually low amounts of precipitation in northern Germany and also in Poland, Ukraine, Belarus, Russia and Romania. Climate change has caused the North Pole to warm far faster than the equator. Now the jet stream is increasingly moving in a north-south direction, says Dr. Marx. As a result, the jet stream is not moving around as much as it once did, leading to stable weather patterns such as the extended dry periods that Germany suffered in 2018. Supreme Master Ching Hai is deeply concerned about the drought conditions around the world, especially in Africa.
In Africa, people in Somalia, Ethiopia and Sudan, to name just a few, have been crippled by drought. According to the United Nations, desertification, which often results from felling too many trees, and damages that occurs from such activities as cattle grazing, is affecting the well-being of more than 1.2 billion people in more than 100 countries at risk. As drought and water crises are spreading silently across the globe, affecting 44% of the world's population, even triggering conflicts in some areas, the livestock industry is guzzling much of our precious fresh water. Livestock feed crop production alone takes up 1/3 of all arable land on the globe, most of which requires irrigation. So in reality, 4,500 liters of clean water goes down the drain for just one serving of beef. In contrast, only 370 liters of water are needed to produce one complete vegan meal, with plenty of calories and nutrients from rice, vegetable, and soy protein. This is not to mention the 21 times of human waste that each cow produces, and the huge amount from poultry that over 70 million birds produce. As the land cannot absorb it all, much of the excess runs into our rivers and soil. We are talking about a horrific amount of toxic material that poses an appalling set of problems, including poisonous gases like hydrogen sulfide and ammonia, residues of pesticides, hormones, antibiotics, and bacteria like E. coli that could and do cause food poisoning and also death. In cities worldwide, including Dublin, in your country, are already struggling with water shortage, even in your country, in Dublin. Yes, but all the while, livestock production is hazardously wasting and polluting any remaining water supplies. Yeah? If we really want to conserve our clean, safe water for ourselves and our children, we must stop livestock production and adopt a plant-based diet.
May heaven bless Africa and Europe. We pray to heaven that the people of Africa and Europe quickly adopt the right answer for stopping drought and water shortages, the compassionate vegan lifestyle. Loving viewers, thank you for your delightful company today. We'll continue to explore the extreme drought conditions in the concluding episode of Extreme Weather Events, Droughts Around the World, Part 3 of 3. May the Divine forever bless you with good health and a long, happy life.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/PE.